Welcome to Tech Abilities, produced live in the Blind Abilities studio. I want to thank all of you for listening and for sending in your feedback. It's well appreciated. And if you want to send us some feedback, give us a call at 612-367-6093. Leave a message. We'd love to hear from you. Or send us an email at info@blindabilities.com. Be sure to check out the show notes for all the tech tidbits and news that we cover in this episode. And you can use chapters. If your podcast player of choice has the chapters feature, go ahead, nibble away at this episode, or take it all in one big meal. That's the way it was designed. And chapters work good, and we love to make that feature available. So without further ado, let's get this show started.
We just called them boots.
If I can't find my phone for 5 minutes, I call it going off the grid.
If I'm tweeting something, I try to make sure that it is spelled correctly, because once it goes out there, it's out there. You can't, you can take it back and delete it, but you can't edit it.
That's 2 words, blind abilities. They are introducing right now, it's called the Braille Speak.
But I can do that on my iPhone with the Braille Writer.
There you go. Live from the Blind Ability Studio, this is Tech Abilities. I'm Jeff Thompson from friendly Minnesota. And down there in Miami, Florida, we got Callie Gray. How you doing, Callie?
Hey, Jeff. I am doing fantastic this Wednesday. Today is a good day. Miami Dolphins made a major trade. They snagged Tyreek Hill from the Kansas City Chiefs, a wide receiver, which Miami definitely needs. So I think we're going to be in contention this year.
Oh, man, but Kansas City got 5 draft picks. Oof. Here goes your future.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you guys beat us one time in the Super Bowl. One time. Okay. You got me there. You do win. Score. There's another beef I got to do. My Netflix password, I think my kids have it. I don't know. I think there's 3 out there. But did you hear what they're doing now? They're going to come back and make you pay, possibly.
I know. And I'm surprised that they haven't been doing this already, to be honest. I just thought it was a given.
Well, they're trying it out in Chile, Costa Rica, and Peru. They're going to give it a whirl to see how this works. Like if you have a family member, it'll cost you $2.99. I don't know how people are going to respond to this. It's like once you give something to people and let them do something, then you take it away. It's like you're removing something. And I don't know. I don't know if this is going to upset the apple cart.
I believe it will. I just think, they may lose some subscribers because of this move, but we'll have to see. No one else has my Netflix password. But then again, my Netflix account is only for one screen at a time. So only one person could be using my password and viewing at a time. So I don't have multiple accounts or anything like that, multiple screens or anything like that. I was thinking about canceling my Netflix account after Grace and Frankie, which premieres on April 29th, because there's really not a whole lot on the platform that I'm interested in at this time. That could obviously change. And I have had friends offer me their passwords to share their passwords with me. And I'm like, I don't know, because aren't I supposed to be in your household in order to share the password? And people are like, girl, come on. Everybody uses, shares their passwords. So, we'll see how that plays out.
Seems like just one of those given things, yeah, here's your password, blah, blah. I got 60 minutes from a friend a long time ago. I still have it.
Really?
But that could shut off any time, just like Apple seemed to do the other day with the iCloud services to most of their services.
Yeah, and I was not aware what was happening the other day because I was in the process of changing my Apple ID and I couldn't log on. I could not get on to change it. And I just didn't know what was happening. I actually thought it was a problem with my iPhone. So of course, I turned it off and powered it back up again and then went into the system settings to try to change the Apple ID and no go. The next day is when I read on the various feeds that there was an outage. iCloud, Apple Music, and other services were disrupted. So this is the first time I ever experienced anything like that. Were you affected at all?
I heard someone mention it. And so I went on and checked, and the Apple Store just sat there for a long time. And then I went over to some other things. I wasn't really doing much with Apple stuff at the time. I don't use iTunes anymore. I was, So I started going on to the news and finding out that, they're experiencing some outages. The first thing I thought of was hack, but I just waited it out. It only lasted a couple hours and it was back up and running.
It was out for more than a couple of hours for me. I couldn't get back in for about 6 hours to change
really?
to change my Apple ID. I was frustrated because it was one of those things where you're like, is it the phone or is it the service? And you don't know which is which. And at least I was just very frustrated because I didn't know if it was something I was doing, if it was the phone or if it was the service. So there were 3 things that could possibly be wrong here. And I was just not sure which one it was. And it turned out that it was the service. So I did feel a sigh of relief for that. And I was able to get on and change my Apple ID finally.
Well, changing your Apple ID, you're going to the core of Apple right there. That's their main server probably.
Yeah. And I'm glad, I was not able to do it until the issue was resolved. So I'm absolutely sure that is a good thing, so there were no glitches involved with me changing the Apple ID. So all is good now.
I think it all started when they started putting driver's license and IDs in Arizona on your Apple, and that just screwed everything up. You get the DMV involved. Now look what happens.
It all goes to pot once you get the DMV involved in anything.
You're not so excited about this one.
I am not. I just don't think that I'm going to be an early adopter to this. And from what I understand, Florida is not one of the first 30 states that has signed up for this. And this is one of the times that I can say that I am glad to be a Florida girl right now. I just don't want it because if my phone is lost or stolen, and I know that there are all kinds of backups when your phone is lost or stolen, or you think it can be wiped out. I just don't know. I'm not going to be an early adopter of the technology with this. So I just don't want to have to open my phone up and hand it to a stranger. If I'm at a doctor's office or something and they need to have my state ID number and stuff like that, I just don't want to hand over my phone to somebody, even though voiceover is turned on and they probably wouldn't know what to do with the phone anyway, because voiceover is on, they'll probably think it's broken. I'm just not going to be an early adopter. I'm just going to keep my state ID, that little card in my wallet, and go from there. And I'll see how things work out in Arizona and these other states before I jump into that. I was one of the last people to do the Apple Wallet, to put my credit cards in the wallet.
Yeah, it's amazing what we've done with our privacy. We talk about privacy all the time, but now you think about it, your driver's license or your state ID, your wallet, pretty soon they'll have a 3D printing out your house key right there,
I know, or your birth certificate, your social security cards. Yeah. I mean, what else is going to go into the wallet? I just don't like to put all my eggs in one basket. As my mom used to say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And that's something I don't want to do.
Your facial recognition data is in there. Some people's thumbprints, fingerprints are in there. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's getting to the point where I think we've surrendered for the most part.
For the most part, yes, I have. But I'm still going to go kicking and screaming with a couple of things, with the autonomous vehicles, number 1, and my state ID and my Apple Wallet, number 2. Those are 2 things I'm going to go kicking and screaming into.
Well, instead of putting a selfie in for your replacement picture for your ID, maybe you could use a Memoji.
Oh, God.
And now Zoom is going to be able to use a Memoji. Can you imagine talking to your own caricature type of Memoji, I guess?
I cannot. I mean, Zoom is introducing, Apple has had Memojis, since iOS 14, I want to say, but I'm not sure, but I think it's iOS 14. And I hated it. I was low vision when that came out and I tried it out and I was looking at myself talking. I was like, this is really so stupid. So I got rid of it. And I'm I just can't see me using it in a professional setting. According to the release from Zoom, it's for a meeting where you want to lighten, have fun during the meeting or something like that.
Like a Friday.
Yeah. But I can't even see myself doing that. But the other instances that they posted, they do make sense. A pediatrician doing a telemedicine call with a child, that may ease the child's anxiety a bit. So I can understand that, but it's definitely not anything that I will be using in my next Zoom meeting. Most of the Zoom meetings I attend are filled with blind people, so nobody's even going to know if I am using it, but I would know, and I am not going to be using this.
Well, you're going to miss out on Memoji Mondays then, I tell you.
Memoji Mondays. Mm-hmm. I didn't even spell Memoji.
I think
Emoji, I know how to spell. What is Memoji? I don't
just
even know.
add me because it's me. It's myself. Like
Ah,
Memoji.
Memoji. Ah,
There
okay.
you
Okay, I
go.
see, said the blind man. I
When he
get it
tripped
now.
over the hammer and saw.
Well, my geometry teacher said, I see, said the blind man as he picked up his hammer and saw. That's the way I learned it in Rochester,
Oh.
New York.
Well, there was a mute one where they tripped over a tire and spoke.
And my geometry teacher, his name was Mr. Graff. Isn't that perfect for a geometry teacher?
Oh, that's too fitting, isn't it?
Yeah, he was so cool. He was so cool.
Talk about fitting. I remember when I got my first iPhone, I got the OtterBox case. It was a tank. It was a beast. And now for the AirTags, a little late to the game, but they got 3 of them out now.
I saw that. And then that article, as in with any OtterBox product, rugged is the key word there. It's rugged. So
Rugged.
your stuff will be protected. You probably won't even be able to get it out of the OtterBox AirTag case.
Oh, no, your luggage will be destroyed, but your AirTag in the OtterBox case will be perfectly fine.
Perfectly fine. Remember those old Samsonite commercials where they had the gorilla try to destroy the suitcase?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's going to be like with the OtterBox on your luggage keychain.
Yeah.
It's like nothing will be able to destroy it.
And until it picks it up and puts it in its mouth and swallows and goes, huh. Well, you'll know where that gorilla is at all times.
Really?
Well, for a day.
I'm just curious to see what they look like and how big they are. I mean, there are 3 different models that they have. I just want to get my hands on them just to feel them, just to see.
Well, from the article and from their website, here's what I gathered. They released 3 cases. And as you mentioned, the rugged is the most classic looking OtterBox style that you would expect OtterBox to release. And that goes for $19.95. And then stepping down the protection level just a bit is the Sleek series from OtterBox. The Sleek will have a 2-tone look to it, but they're not available yet. And when they are available, they're going to go for $14.95. And lastly, the third OtterBox AirTag case is the Figura. I think I said that right. It's Figura. So the Figura series, which is another step down for protection level, but considering that the OtterBox rugged is probably overkill, they're still going to give you some protection for an AirTag, These come in multiple colors and they come in a swirl, and it's based off the iPhone 13 cases that they came out with, so people can match their phone case to the new Figura series if they so choose. And the Figura series will sell once again for $19.95. And when I went to OtterBox website, I saw that you could get the Sleek and the rugged in 4 colors. There's ice cap, then there's like a blue, and then there's a red, and then black. I'm sure the blue and the red have some very great names, but VoiceOver just said null when I tapped on either of those choices. And on my iPhone, I could not get any of the colors for the Figura series, but like they said, it's a mix of some colors. So there you go, Callie. Now's the time to make your fashion statement.
Oh, I guess, fashion means everything nowadays.
Fashion in Minnesota. We can be like sub-zero weather here, and you'll be at the bus stop, cold, but you're dressed for it. You got your everything on, Nanook of the North, and then you hear these high heels come walking up, and you're just thinking, fashion over common sense.
Oh my gosh. Well, I do miss dressing for winter in Rochester, New York. I still love winter clothes, the winter coat and the change of seasons and changing your wardrobe out from the summer to the fall and winter, and wool coats and wool hats and scarves and Frostmasters on my feet,
Frostmasters.
Do you know what those are? Have you ever heard of those?
Those are the heated things?
No, these were way back in the day when I was a child. They were just like boots, but they had these grips on them. And they were just called, it was a brand, it was called Frostmasters.
Slip resistant.
Yeah, you would not slip and fall on those. So
kind of like golf shoes for winter.
Yeah. But they weren't steel, I think, because golf shoes aren't they?
Yeah,
the
they're
spikes
pretty lethal.
Metal. These are a rubber grip on them. They were ugly as heck, but they did the job, They did the job.
Do you remember Moon Boots?
I don't.
They remind me of Kiss Boots, the band. They're just one piece, just slide them up. They weren't that good, but they're good for walking to the bus and getting to school and then putting on your tennis shoes when you're at school. That's about it.
Oh no, I remember those. We just called them boots. It was like so funny. I can like laugh about this now. We'd get up in the morning, we'd get dressed for school, and we'd walk to school, and we'd get to school, get to our locker. And it literally took us like 10 minutes to like undress in the hallway, you know?
Oh, yeah. Pull off the layers.
Yeah, all the layers that we had on. You get to school, and you had to like undress in the hallway and just put everything in the locker and then put everything back on as you like left for the day. It was like, I just thought it was like funny, just a funny memory.
Yeah, the real fun thing was right when you get the change of the weathers, you're in the fall and it gets cold and then it's a nice day. You leave your coat at school because it was so nice out. You didn't even think about it. Next morning, it's like, oops.
Yes, I've had many of those, but you know, unlike kids like today, like we didn't have many snow days. It's like, it seems like kids, they get a lot of snow days nowadays. And I can remember, you know, sitting in front of the television, hoping for a snow day because it was just, you know, just storming outside, but then there would be no snow day. And we had to like get dressed and walk to school anyway. You know, I think in my whole life, we probably had like 2 snow days in Rochester, New York, you know.
Oh, yeah. Our governor called a snow day and we were going to fire him because it was like, what? It was, but it's common sense today. My kids, when they go out in the snow and it's bad, I always tell them, you should always carry an extra set of boots, blanket, gloves, hat in the trunk just in case. And they look at me and go, I got an iPhone.
But what if there's some place where, you know, service is knocked out or something, you know, if the storm causes cell service to be lost, you know? I agree with you there. Jeff's children, listen to your father, okay? Listen to him. Mm-hmm. He speaks from experience.
Yeah, because they always don't last a charge. And with this latest update, and Apple says it's common with an update that your battery will drain faster right after an update.
Yeah, I found this very interesting because last week I updated to 15.4 on your recommendation, Jeff Thompson, I have to say. And I immediately noticed that my battery drained much faster that day. But then like a couple of days later, it was like back to normal. So I was like, okay. And I didn't know what was going on. And I found this article and they talked about it. And Apple even acknowledged the battery drain after an update, especially a major update, which 15.4 was a major update, that to give it 48 hours. And if you're still having the issues, to then contact them. But they said the first 24 to 48 hours, it's perfectly normal to have a battery drain. As they say, all kinds of things are happening in the background that we don't even notice, you know. So I think it's just very interesting.
I heard that it could be because they do a lot of geo stuff and a lot of configurations to the data of a photograph that they're rescanning your photos. I mean, that's like, I felt a little bit of privacy right there. Like, oh, so the photos you had of me were not good enough. Now you want them again. You know, it's like, it's just interesting, all the stuff that goes on in the background that you don't know. And you're just sitting there and your phone's warming up and battery's going down.
Yeah, your phone is like, we're working here. You don't know what's going on, but we are doing some stuff in the background that you are totally unaware of. When I read that thing about, you know, the photos, I'm like, my God, because I've got like about 3,000 photos on my iPhone. And I'm like, every time I do an update, that's what it's doing. It's redoing that and re-optimizing the other apps that I have and your maps and like everything like that. I just found it very interesting, scary at the same time, but very interesting also.
Yeah, that's why I go back to that privacy of our iPhones, where we've come today. Oh, just count the ways that we use our devices and what we've included in our devices today. I remember Rocky. She had on her messages, it said, sent from my surgically embedded iPhone.
It's with her all the time. But can I just tell you, I do a technology sabbatical every Sunday, though. The phone just stays on the charger by the bed. The computer is locked down and I just stay away from it as best as I can. And let me just say it like this. I'm not the one initiating anything with my technology on a Sunday. I just like to have a sabbatical, a detox, you know, from it once a week.
If I can't find my phone for 5 minutes, I call it going off the grid.
Oh my God. Come on. Jeff, people can still reach you if needed. You know, you're not off the grid.
Today was pretty good because I accidentally left it on Do Not Disturb.
Mm-hmm.
I do get more done, and sometimes I purposely leave it in the other room or leave it by my bedside because I can get a lot done and I'm not distracted. I got notifications turned off on my Mac, so I don't get disturbed by those. It is nice to focus. And speaking of focus, I don't want to set up my focus feature because I'm more spontaneous than I am to a 9-to-5 schedule.
Mm-hmm.
With this COVID thing, we're not all back on a tight schedule. Like you got your Tuesdays, Thursdays, I got my days. I'm not going to try and fine detail my focus feature to fit my irregular schedule. I just turn it on, Do Not Disturb. Then hopefully I turn it back off. Hopefully.
Yeah, that's what I do too. I do have it scheduled because I think we mentioned this in the previous podcast, but I do have it set to go to Do Not Disturb 9:30 a.m. until 6 a.m. each day. But I can just swipe down from the control center.
9:30 p.m.
Yeah. What did I say?
A.m.
Oh, Lordy. That was...
Yeah, I was doing the math here and I was going, wow. You sleep hard.
It's like how many hours is that? Like 21 hours, 21 and a half hours, No, 9:30 p.m. until 6 a.m. it goes to Do Not Disturb. But when I go to the Lighthouse on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I will just swipe down from Control Center and double tap on Focus to put it on Do Not Disturb when I'm in my classes. So I'm not disturbed then. And then I'll take it off during lunch, but I didn't get into the fancy stuff where you can have a work focus, an exercise focus, all these different focuses.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I did not do that. I use technology, Jeff. I'm not a fan of it. I use it because I have to, but I am just not a huge fan of it. It has to be a part of my life because I am in the 21st century now, now. So it's definitely a part of my life, but it's not surgically attached to my hip. We're not joined at the hip at all.
And that's a prerequisite for being on Tech Abilities, Callie. I'm not a fan, but I use it.
I use it. It's utility, Jeff. It's utility to get things done.
And that's what I like about the iPhone or my Mac or any piece of technology. Back in the day when I had a PC, you could take parts out and replace them and build it up and do all sorts of things to it. You felt like a mechanic. And then I got to the point where I want to be productive. I just want it to work. And Apple had that, it just works. That's what I want to do. I want to turn it on. I want to get stuff done. Boom. That's it. I'm not digging in anymore. I do like technology to work and I like to be productive with it, but I don't want to have to fix and nudge it and that type of thing. Those days are over.
So you are not a tinkerer. You don't like to tinker with things.
No, I love to tinker. I'm a woodworker. I like to build things. I like to figure things out and all that. But when I'm using it for productivity, like for work or for editing and the likes, I want it to just work. Which reminds me, this app that I just got, it's called Intervals Pro. And it's an interval timer for like the treadmill. Yeah, I want to start out with 3-minute walk, and then I do a run for 1.5 minutes, and then I go 3 minutes, and then 1.5 minutes, because that's hockey. You're out on the ice for 1.5 minutes, then you come in and you rest for 2 lines. 2 other groups of people go out there, then you come up again. So with this app, Intervals Pro, I'm able to recreate a situation. I'm still walking fast, but then I get into a run and then I slow down and go through intervals. But it took me about 45 minutes to figure it out a little bit. So I did tinker.
Okay.
There's my tinkering. It's voice accessible. I got the free version, and then I bumped it up to the $7.99 one-time lifetime. That's the cost for it. In-app purchase. I figured it out. I figured what I was doing wrong, and I got it set up, and it works perfect. And its own voice says 5 seconds before it switches from intervals. So it just rotates between those for 10 rounds. There's an option for like at halfway. So at 1.5 minutes out of the 3 minutes, it'll say halfway. So you get that in your head, I can't see the phone sitting in front of me, but with my earbuds in, I can be listening to music and the voice comes over loud and clear because there's a setting that you can have it do text to speech. And so it's its own voice that's doing it. It's not reading something on the screen.
Wow, I think that is interesting. I think for any of your listeners who are blind, who are into working out, I think people will find this extremely useful. I am not that person, but, I've seen things on Twitter where people have asked questions, that they're doing, what do they call it? When you're lifting the weights with your arms, curls or something like that. And they want to do it for like 2 minutes and then they want to do underarm, for a minute, and then they want to go back to the curls. People have like asked questions, are there any such timers that could do that,
Yep.
And the only other option before this was like, to say, hey Siri, start a timer for 2 minutes. And then once it stopped, okay, hey Siri, start a timer for 1 minute. You just kept having to talk to it. But this sounds much more efficient.
Yeah, it's called a high intensity interval timer. And that's the feature. And I was talking to Dr. Lauren Lieberman today from Camp Abilities, and I was explaining to her that I just got done working out and I got this HIT timer. I don't know what HIT means. And she goes, I do. And I figured I was talking to the right person at that time. So she told me it's a high intensity interval timer, and you can set multiple intervals up for exactly what you're doing when they're doing cross training or something of that nature. And you can call it whatever you want. You can even share it if you have those friends that are doing it too. And I believe once you set something up, you could even share the actual setup for the interval. So if someone else wanted to do that same type of workout, you could share that with them and they could put it in their phone.
Okay. So for all those people out there who are on their treadmills who want to do something similar to Jeff, hit him up and he can show you how to get this app and how to set up the workout timer.
Yeah, I'm excited because I wanted to do this because I was doing exactly what you said. When I was going around the neighborhood and stuff, I'd have to tell it, set timer to, you're tired.
And Siri's probably asking, are you okay, Jeff? You're breathing awfully hard here.
Yeah. Should we call the doctor? Should we call a friend? Yeah. And another neat thing, it does sync up with your Apple Watch. So you'll get your metrics from your workout to go into your health app with the use of your Apple Watch. So that's pretty neat.
Wow. Sounds like it's a fully comprehensive app here. Good, man. Sounds great.
I got it a long time ago, but I didn't know how to set it up. And all of a sudden I just sat down and said, I'm going to do this. Any of these articles or any of these topics that we talked about, we're going to put them in the show notes. You got links there. You link right to the app if you're interested in the Intervals Pro interval timer. That's a great thing about show notes.
People can go in there and click on the link and dig deep.
Yep, go deep. With the high price of gas going up everywhere, Instacart is going to add a surcharge now.
I know, and I have already experienced this.
Really?
Yes. With my Instacart order this past weekend, there was a 45-cent surcharge there. And they said it was for the gas fuel surcharge. And they stated that this goes directly to the drivers. And I have no problem with it because with the soaring price of gas, I think it's the least that can be done for the shoppers and the drivers. And with the cost of gas being about $4.50 here in South Florida, it's like 10% of like what a gallon would cost. And if you get, say, 30 miles per gallon, 10% of that is 3 miles. So I kind of presume that's probably their reasoning behind it. But it's something that I have no issue paying. How do you feel about it?
And if anybody has trouble with the math problems Callie's bringing up on the show here, give us a call at 612-367-6093 and we'll work it out for you. I think it should be higher. I really do. A buck. I tip well. It's got to cut down their margins real quick. When that price goes up a buck or 50 cents, they're losing it.
Yes. And I feel for the drivers. And I agree with you. I think if it were $1, I would not have any issue with that either. It's a service that I greatly appreciate because I'm not out there running around doing the shopping, and they have these people out here who are doing the shopping and delivering the groceries. Like you, I also tip well. It's a service that I'm grateful for, and I'm fortunate enough where I can afford it. So I say give them a little bit more even.
Yeah. It's just common sense. It's just one of those things, Back in the day of cab drivers, I didn't really sense much connection. But with Uber drivers, I don't know. It's a little bit different. You get to choose on your own, on your phone, what you want to tip. It's a little easier rather than handing them and asking for $3 back when we used to exchanging tender. Yeah.
Remember those days? I was exchanging cash. Yeah. Hey, can you give me $3 back from that $5, please?
Sounds like the conversations we're going to have in our rocking chairs with toast and Jerto.
Oh my God.
Before we go to bed at 6 p.m.
Don't laugh. That is my life on Saturdays, man. I usually have dinner cooked by 5 p.m. and I am sometimes in bed by 6:30 or 7 o'clock. So that's my old lady
But you're not that old if you're using Instagram, and now you're able to switch, and you have to switch if you want to favorites and follows. They give you that option to switch your timeline, your feed, to the follows that you follow or to the favorites that you follow.
Oh man, I have been waiting for this. I am so happy. I finally updated my app today because there were actually like 39 updates on the App Store for me. So I'm like, let me go in here and find the Instagram one and update that one at least. And I am so thrilled with it because there's so many times, Jeff, when I would log into Instagram and my timeline would show something from 2 days ago, 3 days ago, so-and-so posted, 4 days ago. I'm like, I know these people are posting more than this, and it was a pain in the butt to search for those individuals that I wanted to see, their latest posts and then go to their timeline and find it. So now this is going to make things a lot easier. So I am, for one, tickled pink about this.
I'm slightly ecstatic about it because I would do the same thing. I'd sit there and go swipe, 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 swipe. And after a while, it's like, okay, done. Because some of them that you don't follow that much, they do it a lot. Now you can pull them up fast and there they are. I like it. Mine happened the other day because I'm always updating. I don't know if I was special, but I guess they rolled it out. The only thing I don't like about it is every time you open the app, you have to reset it.
Yes, and that makes absolutely no sense. I just believe that, these companies need to realize if you set your feed to a certain setting, that's the way that you want it. You're setting it that way because you want it that way. And you shouldn't have to go in and change it every single time you open the app. But it's simple enough because it's basically double tapping.
Yeah, up in the upper left-hand corner. Mm-hmm. They say in the instruction that it's the Instagram logo, but it's actually the Instagram main feed button. Bang, just tap it and boom. There you go. I like it that it's that readily available, but you can actually do that to like your feed for Twitter, the latest, but it always defaults back to the way they want it in a sense. And I think that has to do with their algorithms for advertisements and promotions.
Yeah, I agree. I don't use Twitter too often. I'm a fan of Twitterific because I just like the way the feed curates there. But I have to use Twitter for notifications because that's where the notifications pop up. But on Facebook, you can also go to a recents tab if you want to, because again, Facebook, sometimes there are people who are posting and I just don't see them until days later. So every now and then I will switch to recents just to see if I missed anything.
So you don't have a deficiency of the sound?
Wait, what is that?
The Twitter sound.
No, how do I get that?
Get off Twitterific.
Oh. Well, Twitterific is just so easy. And like right now with Twitter, I'm not sure if it's me or if it's the app, but I cannot compose a tweet on my iPhone using the Twitter app. Well, I shouldn't say that. I can compose it, but after I listen to it, if I need to go in and edit, I can't figure out how to get back in to edit it because it just, when I swipe from left to right, it just rotates between my username and the tweet button. So I have to compose my tweets in Twitterific if I want to send something out where I may have to go back in and edit. And since I basically dictate my tweets, I always have to go back in and change something.
Yeah, you think we'd get better at spelling because we critique Siri so much. Or dictation, I should say.
Yeah. But my signature, whenever I send an email using dictation, it reads, excuse any typos, sent using Siri dictation, and sometimes she just doesn't get me. So that is my signature whenever I send an email, because sometimes she just doesn't. But if I'm tweeting something, I try to make sure that it is spelled correctly, because once it goes out there, it's out there. You can't, you can take it back and delete it, but you can't edit it.
Isn't that something? I've always hated that. I really do, because there's one little thing that just bugs you, and I don't want to delete the whole thing, but I don't like having something out there that's just all typoed.
Yeah, I really hate that too. And I did that like once, and I sent a tweet out about this podcast that I really enjoy, and I titled it incorrectly. And I'm like, oh my God, this is embarrassing because it's out there. Not that I have any followers or anything like that. So it's not like a huge deal or anything. No one's going to see it.
Did you accidentally write blindness abilities or something?
No.
It's 2 words, blind abilities.
Blind abilities. Yes, 2 words. You always say that whenever you're talking about the show, but it wasn't like that. But I was super embarrassed and I had to delete it quickly and I retyped the message and then I sent it out into the Twitterverse.
Mm-hmm.
And you were mentioning about me having 39 updates. I know you say you have yours set to automatic update.
Oh, no.
Oh, you don't?
That's Miss Serena.
No, okay.
I every once in a while I'll get there. I'll do that pull down. Like it'll say I have 6 updates and I'll pull it down and it'll go, you have 28.
Yeah.
It's like, what were you holding back on me, Tim Cook? What's up? Why don't give them to me all as they come? Why do I have to pull down to refresh?
Yeah, I usually have mine set to automatic updates, but I turned that off because on Twitter, it was floating around that Uber and Uber Eats, with their latest update, they broke some accessibility features with VoiceOver where people couldn't choose, their items. And because I do use Uber Eats once or twice a week, I really didn't want to mess with it because it is currently working in its current stage. So I was just not updating that app. But I did go in, of the 39 updates that were available, I updated 36. I left Uber Eats, and Instacart alone because I depend upon those for food delivery services. And like I said, they're currently working. And if it ain't broke, I'm not going to do anything with it until I see something on Twitter that says that the accessibility issues have been fixed.
Zoom adding the emojis really, there's one thing about it, because I went into my Zoom on my Mac and I went back to the video parts of it. And then there's the scene part of it where you can actually add mustaches or cat face or all that stuff. But I did not see the Memoji portion of it. I think what they really have coming is building your own little caricature, right?
I have to check because there was a Zoom update to my iOS device. And in the release notes, it said that they added Memoji. I have not checked to see if there is an update for my Mac yet.
Never thought of that.
Yeah, so that may be where the issue is. I'm not sure what's going on with the Mac OS app in Monterey. So we'll see when they roll that one out.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I put a handlebar mustache on me, but I didn't have anybody in the room to see if it worked or not.
Oh my gosh.
I'll go on to my next meeting and they'll go, Jeff, what's with the mustache?
Wow, okay. Well, interesting. We'll have to see. I can't wait to see that and see those in action.
Who does Zoom on their phone though? Do you?
I have when I've been out and about and I didn't have my computer because there were a couple of Zoom classes that I took with the Braille Foundation that were happening during my lunch break at the Miami Lighthouse. So I would join those on my iPhone.
Matthew from the Braille will be on. We got a scheduled appointment with him. So look forward to that coming out from Blind Abilities with my co-host, Callie Gray.
Yes, Jeffrey. Looking so much forward to that.
How do you say that? Pop culture. Okay, here.
Oh, what's making me happy today?
Well, the pop culture. What is making you happy today?
Well, I discovered on Netflix this fantastic show called Murderville. It stars Will Arnett. The gist of the show is he's a detective, and each episode, a special guest star is brought on to help him solve the crime. These are stars like Conan O'Brien is the first one. Sharon Stone is also in it. And they're I think it was 6 or 8 episodes. I'm not exactly sure because I kind of just blew through them all. And the great thing about it is everybody has a script except for the guest star. So the guest star has got to improvise. And it is hilarious. It does have audio description. And there were times when I was just laughing my butt off at the description of what was going on at, these murder scenes, how the murder scenes looked. There was this one guy who died in his bowl of soup. And it was just the video description of it was just hilarious. And I just really loved it. And at the end of the show, the guest star has to figure out who is the murderer. And you, as the viewer, are following along because you're getting the clues as the guest star is getting them. So you also have like some skin in the game too. So you can try to figure out who the murderer is. And it is just so much fun. It's called Murderville. It's on Netflix. And I think people will really enjoy it if you just need a laugh. It is hilarious.
Just one more reason to hang on to your subscription.
Well, I haven't seen if there's going to be a season 2 yet. So there's only a season 1 so far, but we'll see. But I do have people who I can borrow their passwords from, but I don't even know if I'll do that. We'll see. But, next month on April 3rd, my Netflix subscription renews for the increased price of $9.99. So
there you go. I've been busy the last couple of weeks here, but just to catch up on the news, I added MSNBC, which is, pretty much liberal, quite to the left. And then right down the center, you got CNN, not right down the center, but, closer to center. Mm-hmm. And then I have BBC World News. And with my Comcast cable, I can just flick between those 3 channels and catch up on the news and skip the commercials and stuff like that. So I've been getting ready for blind hockey and doing my exercises and stuff. So I just keep flicking around because I'm not a commercial person and I like watching stuff on cable or something. But it seems like lately commercials, everyone wants to make up for a little lost time during the pandemic or something. I don't know what's going on, but there's a lot of commercials.
Wait, you're going to have to hold on there for 1 minute, Jeffrey Thompson. You are watching these services without commercials. How is that? Because I thought if you were watching them on Comcast cable that commercials were built in.
Oh, you are absolutely correct, Callie Gray. The thing is, when a commercial comes on, I hit one button and I can go to the last channel or the channel before. I just keep on flicking and...
Oh, okay.
With the BBC World News, what's really neat is you get different type of approaches from it, like someone from Singapore or someone from Brazil that is anchoring at that moment. And they just have a different perspective that is their concerns and not necessarily based in the United States or the UK as what's totally the most important thing in the world right now. I do like keeping up with the news, and every once in a while I take a sabbatical from it and I just have to watch local news and get rooted again, bare feet right on the ground.
No, I understand what you're saying with news. And BBC America, I do like their newscast. There's an app on my Apple TV where I can just turn that on and watch their newscast. And it's just so interesting just to see the differences with the way the tone and just the language, that they use is very different from American newscasts, It's like, I have to still get used to, because like they'll say someone was taken to hospital. They don't say taken to the hospital, taken to hospital.
They don't use that article in front of things.
Yeah. And it's like,
the hospital.
Yeah, I guess it's correct because it's British English. So I'm going to guess that they're speaking proper English, So I'm like,
the Queen's English.
The Queen's English. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a difference between the United Kingdom and the United States is we're 2 countries separated by a common language.
Oh.
If you've ever been there, you'll understand there are some words that just don't work back and forth. Not at all.
Like what?
Well, do you remember the candies called Fanny Farmer?
Yes.
And we have Fanny Pack?
Yes.
Do you know what Fanny means in England?
I'm going to presume buttocks.
Close. Yeah. It's right there.
Oh, really? Oh, my gosh.
So they don't use that word there.
It's like the movie Free Willy. Willy in London means something totally different in the UK.
Yeah, a plaster. That's a Band-Aid.
Oh. And I know a lift is an elevator.
And a lorry is a truck.
And the biscuit is a cookie.
And chips are French fries.
Or a flat is an apartment.
Yeah, flats.
Yeah. But there's a movie. Have you ever seen this movie called Snatch? Brad Pitt is in it. And I can't remember who else is in it because Brad Pitt is in it. So I don't remember who else is in this movie. But you should watch it just because for me, I find it very hard to follow a movie where they're speaking in a British accent. I really do, even though it's clear, but I just have a hard time following it. But there are other parts of Britain, where even British people have trouble understanding them. And in this movie, Snatch, Brad Pitt is from one of those locations where in the movie, he's speaking in English, but they do subtitles because not even the people he's talking to in the movie can understand him. And they put subtitles in for the audiences to watch. It's part of the joke. You would have to actually see it in order to get it. And you may want to just remove this entire section from the podcast because I got so lost here.
I've been to England 3 different times and spent 2 weeks at a crack. And when I was up in Birmingham, and they don't pronounce the H, so it's Birmingham. Where here we would say Birmingham, or New Hampshire, where they would say Birmingham. And up there, they have the Black Country where they did the mining of the ore and everything. Do you remember Wimpy on Popeye? It's like talking during a yawn. So first start yawning and then start talking I would like 100 hamburgers. And that's exactly what happens up there. And then in Birmingham, they basically tried to teach it out of them. Teach that English out of them a little bit. And then you go down to Devon, where I was down by Timoth and stuff. And it's I really have to pay attention. Ask them for a latte. And it's they're tea drinkers. And they've gotten better. They're about up to where the gas station latte machine. Yeah, that's about where they got on the 3rd time I was there.
Oh my goodness. Not even Starbucks? Come on, Starbucks must have made a dent.
No, they have a machine. They have a machine,
really?
and you push the button, and they get to watch this things happen, and all of a sudden you're done, and they go, there it is. That's the latte. And I taste it, and I go, okay, that's not a latte. That's...
No, not at all. Not from a machine. So that sounds funny.
The buildings over there are 400 years old. The height of the doorway, you can tell. The stoop going in, they're not accessible to wheelchairs because these buildings were built 400 years ago, and they're built close together because all they had to have was a cobblestone road for carriages. So trucks, there are no semi-trucks with a nose on them. They're all flat-nose trucks for deliveries.
Really?
It's all different. Everything's tapered so the water flow goes back to the ocean because it's basically an island. So it's really, the engineering is really cool. The buildings, you want to get internet? Good luck. Those things are built with stone. You're in your room or hotel in one of those small towns and stuff. The internet is in the lobby. That's it.
Oh my gosh. You have to go to the lobby to have access to the free Wi-Fi. Oh.
Yeah, I went back down to the lobby. I said, you said you had internet. Can I get the code? I can't get it in my room. No, we have internet. I can't get it. She said, it's right here. Right where? And I turn around, there's 4 or 5 other people standing, leaning against the wall, sitting in a chair. Everyone's checking their phones, Every morning you go down for a coffee, a fake latte, and everyone got their phones out and their computers. They're all huddled around each other.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Well, I've never been to London. I really never wanted to go.
England, I've never been to London. Not that side. Not that side.
Well, I haven't been to England. It's never been on my bucket list or anything like that. But I did go to Italy. And Italy is very old, but they had Wi-Fi everywhere. I mean, there was no place where I couldn't get Wi-Fi. And I didn't have an iPhone when I went to Italy. I had an iPod Touch.
Oh, yeah.
And it acted just like an iPhone, except you couldn't make phone calls. But, I could message once I got on Wi-Fi. I posted my pictures to Facebook on the Wi-Fi. I did everything with that iPod Touch. I missed that thing. It was pink. It was just it was so thin. It was a great gadget. And I had my Rick Steves audio tour books on it, as I did walking tours by myself until my tour showed up. And it was just fantastic. I really do miss the thing. And one thing I did learn in Europe is that, how in America we say, the first floor or the second floor there, because my room was on the 4th floor, but the lobby is the first floor in Europe. So it's not like it is here in America. My room was on the 4th floor, but it was actually the 3rd floor.
Mm-hmm.
That just really blew my mind, because when he said 4th floor, I'm thinking, okay, but it was actually the 3rd floor.
You mentioned the iPod Touch, and I just fired mine up the other day. I found it, and I found the 32-pin jack that goes into it and plugged it in, charged it up, and I turned it on, and I waited and waited and waited. It won't connect up to iCloud anymore because it'd probably blow up. But it was just, in my hand, it felt right before you throw a bar of soap away, okay, that's done. done, Yeah. It just feels like it's not all there.
Yeah, it was so thin and
it's
light.
Curved right around the backside, curves up. Your hand almost can close around it, It's just...
Yeah.
But it still worked.
I loved it.
I still had some apps on there, and I was like, But I think at one time I emptied most everything out and just got songs in there. But I got it to connect up to my Wi-Fi and stuff, and yeah.
For the longest time, I used that, and I had a flip phone. I had a Go phone where I would put like $10 or $25 on every 3 months or so on that flip phone.
Oh, yeah. a burner.
I was not a drug dealer, so don't call it a burner. It was like,
hey. I watched some of the shows you do.
No, it was my regular phone, and that worked perfectly for me. I had my flip phone for emergencies, and I had my iPod Touch for everything else. So it worked for me, because there was a time in life, where I only used a phone in an emergency if I was on the road.
Like it being the seventh caller for the big $100 discount.
Or for those concert tickets, you got to get
Sly and the Family Stone, be the seventh caller.
I won Earth, Wind, and Fire tickets once back in 1981.
I was close.
The station was Y100, and I was like the 10th caller. I was so excited.
Oh, wow.
That was the only time I've ever won anything on a radio show. First and only time. But it was well worth it. If I had to win anything, that was it. So I'm happy.
Yeah. Those were the days when all you needed a phone for was a phone call.
Yeah. But do you really need it for anything else but that now? Come on, really? Could you go a month without your iPhone? No, I'm serious. Could you?
That's like writing an obituary.
I mean, to trade it off for a flip phone. I don't want you to be totally disconnected, but go to a flip phone. Could you go for a month without your iPhone and just use a flip phone?
No.
Okay.
No, because I run 2 businesses technically, and that is my remote desktop in a sense. That's where I get my information. That's where I research. That's where I look stuff up, and I cut and paste it here and I paste it onto my Mac. It's a tool. It's an integral part of my workstation here. I don't like going on my Mac into Facebook to find something. It's so much easier to find Amazon, Facebook, Twitter stuff right on my phone. When I publish something, I do crisscross over to the Mac to Twitter and Facebook. I publish there after a podcast is released, but I use my phone to verify that it's up on Apple. I could leave it next to my computer here where I'm working. Yes, I could do that. But could I walk around with it? Definitely I could. That's a roundabout way of saying it, but it is a good tool for me to use in conjunction with my apple orchard.
What you need, Jeff, are people. Because a few years ago, I remember watching Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. I was at work and we were watching a Dallas Cowboys game. And he was in the guest box, one of those mega suites that they have at the stadium. Mm-hmm. And he was using a flip phone. And the next day, people were like even the commentators commented about him using a flip phone. And the next day, it was like just all over the internet. This man who's like worth billions has got a flip phone. And I'm thinking, he's got people. He's got other people who are connected and can let him know what's going on. And plus, this man has got enough money where he can buy everybody who's filling that stadium an iPhone if he wanted to. So don't throw him any kind of shade, y'all, because he's using what works for him. And that flip phone, it works for him.
He'd save a lot of money if he bought the 13 SE that just came out. A lot of people are liking it, I hear. And, hey, a friend of mine called up and said he was going to get it because it's comparable to how he would use it. So I'm glad they do have that $399 for, 64 gigabytes. But as soon as you bump it up to 256 or something like that, I don't know.
Well, I think the starting price is $429 for the SE this year.
Oh, was it $399?
You can check it, but I think
at one point.
It was $399 last year, but I think the new one,
$420. You're right.
It's $429.
That's why you're on this show. That's why.
I get things right every now and then, but hardly ever. But I think it is $429. I'm not going to be getting the SE. I'm going to look forward to see what the 14 is, because like Serena, I am used to the Face ID now. I hated it in the beginning, but now I am used to it. And I don't think I can go back to the thumbprint
I heard in 2023, I mean, you hear rumors all the time, and we never talk about rumors hardly, but that's a rumor. They said that they're going to put the Face ID, so they get rid of that nudge at the top. That doesn't bother me at all. They're going to put the fingerprint ID thing under the screen as well, so I don't know. Nothing's bothering me with the phone right now, especially with the latest update. And you just got the latest update, what, 15.4?
Yeah, 15.4. That's when I had the battery drain for that day or so.
Yeah, it's all back to normal. Mine is the iPhone 12 Pro Max. I'm down to 86% on my battery health. I hear when you get to 80, that's the time to replace the battery. But I am totally over this LiDAR stuff, over this other stuff, all these little features that phones have that we rarely use. When my battery gets down to that 80 zone, I'm just going to replace the battery. I'm not going to buy a new phone.
Just hold off until the 14 comes out. You know what? And I just had an aha moment. Can I tell you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when I updated to 15.4, that day when I got up and I was on paratransit heading to the lighthouse, I always listen to Sirius XM. And I listen to Sirius XM channel 32, which is U2X Radio. As you know, they are my favorite band, U2. And I could not go live. You know, they have a button where you can press where it says go live, because sometimes it will leave me in the show that I was last listening to. And at that point, I wanted to go live and I couldn't. And I turned off the phone and rebooted it and I still couldn't go live. And I couldn't go live until later that afternoon. And I think that was when the update, was refreshing like everything, and that the app hadn't fully refreshed. I think that's an aha moment for me. I think that's what happened, because ever since like later in that day, I've been able to go live on because I was going to call SiriusXM and complain about accessibility. That's my aha moment. I think that's what was going on because I had updated that morning.
So you have a subscription to SiriusXM, and it works on your phone.
And I totally only have it because of U2X Radio. That's the only reason.
There is love.
There is love.
One love.
One life. We get to carry each other, Jeff. We get to carry each other. Bono doesn't say we have to carry each other. He says we get to carry each other. That's a sign of like love, man. So it's like, so that's literally the only reason that I have SiriusXM.
Now you brought up Bono, and we were talking about England earlier. While I was in England, I heard someone say that the difference between God and Bono is God does not walk around England wishing he was Bono.
Ah, God, people are jealous of my boy. People are jealous of my boy. And I can just throw out another pop culture thing that is going to make me happy. I read that Netflix is in development for a U2 series. J.J. Abrams is working on it. And I'm just like looking forward to that. It's going to be, about the group's rise to fame, so I am looking forward to this. It's going to be a scripted series, so it will not star the band, but I will definitely subscribe to Netflix if that project actually materializes.
Help me out here. The Late Late Show with James, what's his last name?
Corden?
James Corden. The Late Late Show with James Corden just had Duran Duran on as they're running tops now for the Hall of Fame. That was pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty cool to have them sitting down, and James Corden is pretty good interviewer, I tell you.
I would like to catch that because Duran Duran, I did like them back in the 80s too. So,
I think they had a few things for everyone. Like Hungry Like a Wolf kind of crossed over to a lot of different areas.
And the Reflex, come on.
They were only really together. I mean, the first 5 albums, you know what I mean? And then they kind of split up and teamed up with Robert Palmer for Bang a Gong and Power Station.
It was only 2 of the members who did that. That was Andrew Taylor on guitar and John Taylor.
Yep.
Those are the 2 teamed up on bass with Robert Palmer, Bang a Gong. And they also did a remake of Some Like It Hot. Yeah, that was the first one. Yeah.
And then the other 3, Arcadia.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so they did Arcadia. So they never stopped, but they just had inner battles. So they're good for 4 or 5 years, and then they did the Time to Kill. They did that outside the band. They all came back together to put that song together. So they've had this record of coming back and forth together. I think this last album they did put out It is pretty much Duran Duran all over again. It's really good. I have to admit they really pulled it off. And yeah.
I'll have to check it out on Apple Music then to see what's going on with that. But, my boys, U2, their first album came out in 1980. It's been 42 years, man. 42.
They went to the same high school.
Yeah. They all met. Larry Mullen Jr., the drummer, was actually like the founder of the group, but Bono is the center as far as I am concerned. As you can tell, like, I'm just like a nut. I'm just like a nut for them. So, you can't take anything, I love them.
Was it the Joshua Tree?
The Joshua Tree was 87. That was their fifth album.
That was huge.
Yeah, it was, but not their best, in my opinion.
No, had a lot of religious overtones on it. And a lot of people thought that it was a calling. And the next album was totally different, They've really reinvented themselves so many different times with the music. Yeah,
because after the Joshua Tree came the concert film album, Rattle and Hum. And then they reinvented themselves because they took a lot of crap during the Joshua Tree tour, about Bono being God and like all of that. And they reinvented themselves for Achtung Baby. And that is my favorite.
I almost had that blues song too. It was really good.
With B.B. King?
Yep.
When Love Comes to Town? Yeah. Not their greatest moment,
in
my opinion.
But it wasn't Joshua Tree.
Because as much as I love Bono, you can't sing next to B.B. King. I'm like, it just...
Buddy Guy is coming to Minnesota.
Really?
Yep.
Oh my gosh. I would love to see him.
And it feels like rain. Yeah, he's one of my faves.
Well, concerts are coming back, it looks like, but there's no one that I'm looking to see right now. And plus, concert tickets are so expensive. My very first concert I got to see was Earth, Wind and Fire. It was back in 1975, and the tickets were $7.50.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was like, at the War Memorial in Rochester, New York. And it's like, and tickets now, they're just like unbelievable. I can't afford to go to a concert. I mean, my last U2 concert that I went to, and my tickets were $175,
That's James Brown at the Carlton back in the day. And I think it was like $8. $8.50,
Yeah. But there's this great article that I read. Or was it a television show? See, I get things all mixed up because everything I listen to is audio. So I can't remember sometimes if I actually saw it on television, heard it on a podcast, or read it online, because in any case, someone's voice is speaking to me. So I get things confused. But there's this whole article about what's behind the cost of ticket prices and why everybody hates Ticketmaster. It was just like the most interesting article or television news report that I have listened to in a long time. And like I said, I can't remember which one it was. So, which is why I want to learn Braille so I can actually sit and read quietly somewhere sometimes.
Yeah, it'd be really nice to have more affordable Braille. And I know this is late in the show. Have you heard of the Braille Writer? A little $99.
I have that, the Orbit Braille Writer.
They are introducing right now, it's called the Braille Speak. And it's going to be just pump yours up a little bit, and they're going to put a Wi-Fi connection in there. They're going to put like a little connector on there. So like a note taker.
I still don't understand what Braille note takers are. I just haven't been able to wrap my brain around it to see the usefulness of a Braille note taker, because I understand they're incredibly expensive also.
Yeah. Take a Bluetooth keyboard. You have a QWERTY one, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Take that size. Now make it thicker, about the size of a mid-sized book. So it's going to be 1.5 inches thick. Okay. Now you put a hard drive in there so you can store something. Now you put a file system, like an Android system in there. So like you do a command and it opens up a folder. You look for a file and you open up a book and you say, read the book. You might have refreshable Braille along the bottom so you can read your book. And then there's a thumb tab where you touch it with your thumb to get to new lines. So you start reading. Mm-hmm. And so you have storage capabilities. You can connect to the Wi-Fi to download books and other things like that. It's like a miniature computer without a screen, and it's just your keyboard, whether you have the QWERTY keyboard or you have a Perkins Braille type of keyboard, the 6-key, mm-hmm. like your writer does.
Okay.
So what they're doing is with the writer, they're turning it into the speak. It'll have a voice on there. It'll speak the words to it. It'll read the book to you if you want, or you can type into it and listen to commands and stuff like that. I know they do have the Orbit Writer. Then they have the Orbit 20, and that's a note taker for $7.99. And so this one will probably be, mid-range in there somewhere, but it's supposed to be like a little Braille writer on steroids.
Well, I don't think I would need that, because if I'm going to listen to a book being read, I might as well just do that on my iPhone and not have this other gadget to do that.
If you're in class or something, you pull that out and you just go, oh, I want to take, what day was that? Tuesday? I want to save. You just wrote it down and you saved it within it. Then when you get at home, you can go back, what time was that? And play it back.
But I can do that on my iPhone with the Orbit Writer.
Mm-hmm. Now you don't need the iPhone connection. You just have that.
I don't know if I'll ever get to the point where, I'll read Harry Potter in Braille, because my instructor told me like Harry Potter's like 8 volumes or something. It's like, the Sorcerer's Stone. And I'm like, huh? So I just don't know if I'll ever get to that point with my Braille reading, but I want to learn as much as I can, because there's this girl I follow on Twitter. Her name, I think you've interviewed her, Christy Veers. She's always talking about, how she uses her Braille reader to read books and stuff like that. And I just think it would be interesting. Obviously, she's very good. She's very fast, because I know when she was on your show and she did that demo about using Braille screen input on her iPad, I was just like, she's typing so quickly. More quickly than I could on a QWERTY keyboard. So she's got some skills. So I just don't know if I'll ever get to that point. But a part of me wishes that I could just curl up quietly, in the corner with a book and not have it speak to me. Because that's one of the things that I miss, with being blind. That's one thing I truly do miss, is sitting on my chaise lounge with a glass of wine, reading a book or thumbing through a magazine. I miss that dearly. I really do.
Well, Kelly.
Jeffrey.
I think that's a wrap.
It is, sir. It's been great talking to everyone tonight from South Florida here, and ciao, ciao.
And if anybody has any questions or you have any suggestions, give us a call at 612-367-6093. That's 612-367-6093. That was for Serena. She may not be here today, but she's in my mind.
She's in my mind, too. Can't wait for you to get back here.
All right. From all of us here at Blind Abilities and the Tech Abilities Show,
stay well, stay informed, and stay strong.
Thanks for listening, and until next time, bye-bye.
You can do it the NSYNC way, baby. Bye, 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 bye.
And then cue our funky music, right?
And for more podcasts with the Blind News Perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com, on Twitter at blindabilities, and give us a call at 612-367-6093. Leave us a message and let us know if we can put your voice on the next podcast. Drop us an email at info@blindabilities.com, and download the free Blind Abilities app from the App Store and Google Play Store. That's 2 words, Blind Abilities. And from all of us here at Blind Abilities, through these challenging times, to you, your family, and friends, stay well, stay informed, and stay strong. I want to thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed. And until next time, bye-bye.